Hi, it's Andrew Learmonth. In this video briefing, what I'm going to discuss with you is lithium battery transportation. As you'll see, lithium batteries actually are classified as a dangerous good. The reason for that is they can actually be quite flammable. If you were to have some sort of dangerous goods incident involving a lithium battery on board an airliner, as you can imagine, the results could be catastrophic. For me personally, I want to get that message out for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't want to fire on board one of my aircraft if I'm ever flying a passenger along who's a drone operator and they have lithium batteries incorrectly packaged. I don't want there to be a fire on board my aircraft, let alone anyone's aircraft. The other reason too is I want your business to succeed. So I want to make sure that you know how to safely transport lithium batteries. So first of all, you don't create a hazard to others. And secondly, I don't want you to obtain any fines from CASA or any other government agency due to the incorrect packaging as well as shipment of lithium batteries. So let's get into the briefing.
Everyday dangerous goods are transported all across the world, so that can include air transportation as well as some of the cargo trucks and things that you see every day on the roads. Now the good thing is most dangerous goods, in particular lithium batteries, they can actually be transported very safely provided certain principles are followed, and that's to do with the way that they're packaged, that they're handled, and just people being aware that there's actually dangerous goods on board the transportation method in case something goes wrong. The good thing is declared dangerous goods. So they're dangerous goods that have actually been, the person who's sending them or shipping them, they've actually told the company or the cargo company that's transporting that they exist. So a declared dangerous good rarely causes a problem because the cargo can be handled appropriately. The problem is it's the undeclared dangerous goods that have got the potential to injure or kill people. And I've even seen in my aviation career that they've done serious damage to aircraft, such as example was a large wet cell battery was loaded incorrectly on board a cargo aircraft at a company I used to work for. Because it was undeclared, it was put on board upside down, and that battery acid leaked down through the floorboards and actually started to cause some serious damage to the aircraft systems. So overall, there's been some studies done into dangerous goods accidents, and they found that actually less than 1% of dangerous goods incidents involves goods that have actually been declared. What that means is 99% of incidents therefore involve undeclared dangerous goods. It's likely that at some stage you're going to transport your remotely piloted aircraft on board an airliner, and that's going to include batteries, in particular your spare batteries. As a result, we need to teach you a little bit about your responsibilities and rights when you are carrying lithium batteries. The other thing too is it's likely that you will actually send or receive lithium batteries via air freight. So we're going to talk a bit about that too and how you can actually declare dangerous goods such as lithium batteries safely. What we're going to do too is introduce the overall concept of dangerous goods and the threat that they pose to aviation. The thing is, this course doesn't qualify you to accept dangerous goods or to package, document them, ship them, anything like that. There's actually a full dangerous goods acceptance course that you need to do if you want to be able to do that. This is just an introduction to make you very aware of dangerous goods hazards, in particular lithium batteries. As a member state of the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, Australia recognises what's called the Technical Instructions, or the TIs, as a ruling document to do with the shipment of dangerous goods by air. The way this is legislated is in the Civil Aviation Act, Section 23, and also in CASR Part 92. If you want to learn more about dangerous goods legislation, that would be a good place to start. What the technical instructions from ICAO take into account is the effect that the unique effect aviation has on dangerous goods, in particular vibration, pressure and temperature variations. So if we think about typical day-to-day airliner flight, there's a fair bit of vibration that can occur, takeoff, landing and just general en route flying. Air pressure changes, so there could be times where the air pressure is compressing or the air pressure is expanding with respect to a dangerous good, and that could obviously lead to an undesired state from the dangerous good. And temperature varies quite a lot too. As you gain altitude, temperature will drop. You might then go and land somewhere that's quite hot. So that's going to have a big impact on certain types of dangerous goods, particularly if it's flammable. To make ICAO's technical instructions easier to understand for day-to-day use, A different organisation known as IATA has actually taken them and used them to write what's called the Dangerous Goods Regulations, or the DGRs. These DGRs are not less restrictive than ICAO's technical instructions, but what they do is they give general dangerous goods shippers and different people a broad understanding of how to safely transport dangerous goods. So throughout the dangerous goods regulations there on the right, they'll actually have information about how to ship dangerous goods, how to package them. There might be certain types of dangerous goods that are incompatible and shouldn't be put next to one another. All that's covered within that manual. Individual airlines then can take what's written in the dangerous goods regulations and actually produce their own dangerous goods manuals. So Qantas has one, Virgin Australia has one, for example. And within this manual, it'll be specific handling instructions to do with the airline. Information in the airline's dangerous goods manuals can't be less restrictive than what's in the DGRs, but they can be more restrictive. Dangerous goods overall will fall under 4 broad categories. So there will be some that are acceptable for transportation, there's some that are totally forbidden for transport by air, other ones can be forbidden unless exempt by certain states, and what they mean by state is not Queensland or New South Wales, a state's referring to a country. So certain countries across the world might actually permit certain types of dangerous goods to be transported by air. And there's another type as well, that these are called accepted dangerous goods. So I get a little bit confused between accepted and accepted, but even though they sound the same, they're 2 different types of dangerous goods categories. So we'll have a bit of a look at those as well. Now, acceptable dangerous goods are the DGs that can be safely carried by air as cargo, provided they're actually properly prepared as per the dangerous goods regulations. So if you have a look to the right there, you've got a page from what they call section 4.2, also known as the blue pages. And anyone who's shipping a dangerous good, they'll go through and they'll make sure that the dangerous good that they want to send is not too high in volume. For example, you can imagine only certain volumes of chemicals or petrol and things like that can be safely transported. So you've got to make sure that you're below any limits. The other thing they'll look at is making sure that it's packaged correctly. They'll also check that whether it's going to cause hazards to any other dangerous goods. So they'll go through this section 4.2 of the dangerous goods, and therefore that type of dangerous good can be accepted on board an airline or any sort of freight aircraft. Now the other type of dangerous goods, the accepted DGs, these are certain substances or goods that are actually accepted from the regulations, provided they fall under one of the following categories. So certain types of dangerous goods can be brought on board an aircraft by passengers and crew, and that's what we're going to have a look at shortly, and that includes lithium batteries. If the dangerous good is the property of the operator, so this can be things like fire extinguishers. Normally they would not be permitted on board an aircraft, but because they're very important to the safety of an airline, they can be brought on board an aircraft. And the other thing is, if they're in accepted or very small quantities, they may also be permitted to be brought on board an aircraft as a dangerous good. The provision for dangerous goods, it's defined in what they call Table 2.3a or 2.3 alpha. That comes again from the dangerous goods regulations or the DGUS. And what CASA have done is, if you ever see posters like this one to the right and their information flyers, all that information is based on what's in the dangerous goods regulations table 2.3, because these are the accepted dangerous goods that can be carried by passengers or crew on board aircraft. On their posters, CASA will also illustrate certain types of dangerous goods that are totally forbidden for air transportation. This is what table 2.3a looks like from the dangerous goods regulations. I'm going to spend a little bit more time later on going through how it applies to lithium batteries, but it's a fairly simple table. Down, it's alphabetically listed, are a whole bunch of dangerous goods that can be brought on board an aircraft by passenger or crew. Then you make your way across the side here, so you can find out whether the approval of the operator, which is the airline, is required to bring this dangerous good on board. You can find out whether it's permitted as checked baggage, permitted as carry-on baggage, or whether the pilot and command must be informed of the location. The difference between checked and carry-on baggage, if you haven't come across those terms before, Checked baggage is the baggage when you go to an airport and you put it on the chute, which then goes off and it's put in the cargo section of an airliner. That's checked baggage. We can't access it during flight. It's not until you land again that baggage can be accessed by people. That's different to your carry-on baggage. That's the baggage that basically goes in the overhead locker or underneath the seat in front of you. That's the baggage that can be, accessed by people throughout flight. So you can imagine if dangerous goods were carried on as you carry on baggage and there was to be some sort of fire or something like that, it's much easier for the cabin crew or individuals to put out the fire or deal with that dangerous good than if it was loaded underneath the aircraft as checked baggage. And that's why you'll see some differences in the restrictions between checked and carry-on baggage. As lithium batteries become more and more popular in electronic devices, and basically they're in everything these days, they're in your iPhone, they're in your computers, and they're the type of battery that's used to obviously power most electric drones, we're seeing that they're becoming more and more a threat to aviation. Now the reason for that is if a lithium battery is mishandled, mislabeled, or if they're dropped or damaged, there can be some pretty serious consequences for aviation safety. One of the reasons for that is if a lithium battery was to catch fire, the actual fire suppression systems in most cargo holds, they can't suppress a fire if the lithium batteries are loaded into the wrong section. Now the reason I mean for that is if a lithium battery or any sort of flammable good is labelled correctly, what they'll make sure is that dangerous good is put in a cargo section which has adequate fire suppression, and that could be basically metal bins and all sorts of things like that. If a dangerous good is not declared properly, then obviously that dangerous good could be put in the wrong place, which doesn't have adequate fire suppression systems. A good example of this was in 2006, and this was one of the earliest examples of a lithium battery fire. There was a DC-8 operated by UPS, which is a freight company. It landed at Philadelphia airport after the crew reported that there was some sort of cargo smoke indication. What happened is the 3 crew members, they were able to safely evacuate the aircraft, but the damage to the airplane is pretty severe, and as you'll see from the following images. And the suspected case was a lithium battery shipment. So this was the fire crew putting out the initial fire, and these are some photos the next day. You can see it was able to burn right through the fuselage, and the suspected reason was a number of lithium batteries that were incorrectly declared, and during the transportation process basically connectors started to rub up against each other. There was a short which led to a fire. Another example much closer to home this time was in Melbourne in 2014. There was an airline that was bound for Fiji. As the captain was outside doing his walk around, he noticed that there was actually some smoke coming from the cargo hold, so he got onto the first officer. The first officer was able to activate the fire suppression system to put the fire out. They evacuated the aircraft and a mayday was declared. As a result, all the fire attendants and everything were able to attend to the aircraft and make sure it prevented the aeroplane from being destroyed. Now the fire was actually confined to one case, and when they went to investigate, it actually contained more than 8 lithium batteries. Now the reason is the fire is believed to have ignited when one of these batteries short-circuited as the case was being moved and loaded onto the aircraft. What was actually quite shocking to hear is from the ATSB, or the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, they put a report out saying that the passengers stated during check-in that there were actually no batteries in their checked bags, but they actually declared 8 lithium batteries as being carried on as their hand luggage. So the person involved here has actually told a pretty significant lie. They said that there was no batteries in their checked baggage, which was going to get loaded into the cargo hold. They said all the batteries were going to be carried on, and that was completely incorrect. This was the case that caught fire. And just take a moment, have a bit of a look and see if you can figure out who this person was that would have brought such batteries on board an aircraft. If you have a look over here, you can start to see the lithium batteries. They look like some balance charges and things, but this is the giveaway here. You've actually got a transmitter or a flight controller for a remotely piloted aircraft. Now this passenger, who was actually a certified RPA operator, they were located by the local police, the federal police, and asked if they actually had any more batteries in the checked baggage. Now this person continued to lie, and they said there were no further batteries. What the Australian Federal Police found is that there were actually another 19 batteries that were still intact, in addition to the 6 to 8 batteries that were destroyed by the fire. The following video shows just how quickly a lithium battery can catch fire, and once it does start to ignite, there can be quite a significant runaway with the fire. It'll start off as smoke, but then the flames...
Okay, we're going to try to cause this battery to rapidly disassemble. This is one of those junky batteries off of eBay that is defective, and I marked it with an X so I wouldn't fly it in my expensive quadcopter. It's not a DJI brand, it's an off brand, and it's defective. You can see it's got a little bulge in the plastic. It always reports low battery to the copter, so it's defective. If you can see that screen, but it makes an attempt at being high-tech. But we're going to see if we can catch it on fire.
I'm going to get upwind of it. I believe it's disassembling.
They're coming off. There it goes.
So after watching that video, I want you to have a think about how disastrous that would be if a battery like that was to catch fire on board an aircraft. Not only would the smoke be an issue at the start, but then have a look at the flames that then develop. They could quickly engulf an aircraft, particularly if the baggage surrounding the fire has, typical things that are in bags, clothes and other sort of flammable materials. The rules from ICAO's technical instructions, or the TIs, they explain that a passenger may actually carry a reasonable amount of lithium batteries for personal use as long as their rating is not more than 100 watt hours. They can also be, that mentions there are 2 gram lithium content, but we're not concerned with lithium metal batteries. We're considering the lithium ion or the LiPo batteries. So the thing there is it talks about, yes, a reasonable amount for personal use as long as the battery has a rating of not more than 100 watt hours. So it's a little bit loose there in its classification as what is a reasonable amount. So we'll have a look at some different rules and things shortly. In addition, each airline, they might actually make supplementary policies in relation to the carriage of lithium batteries. So it's up to you as a passenger just to make sure that you are aware of your airline's policies before you take lithium batteries on a flight. Now, at the time of this recording, there were no significant restrictions on lithium batteries as long as it was less than 160 watt hours, and I'll talk you through that shortly. But if you are traveling overseas on a foreign airline, it might be a good idea to investigate what their policy is with respect to lithium batteries, because it could differ to what we're going to explain shortly, which is applicable to Australia only. It's likely you're actually going to encounter some resistance from check-in staff at airports, so we're going to give you a bit of background knowledge as to what your rights are with respect to carrying lithium batteries. So this is a photo that a friend of mine took a little while ago. They were travelling to New Zealand, and the check-in staff were very reluctant to accept the lithium batteries as carry-on luggage. But given my friend's aviation background, he was able to refer them to the dangerous goods regulations and whatnot, and quite correctly, the drone as well as the lithium batteries were able to be brought on board as carry-on luggage. This is an extract from that table I showed you earlier, table 2.3, which tells you which dangerous goods are accepted from the regulations and can be brought on as checked or carry-on baggage. So what I'm looking at here is only things to do with lithium batteries. So the first thing to look at is batteries that are spare or loose, including lithium ion cells or batteries. For portable electronic devices, they must be carried in carry-on baggage only. Articles which have the primary purpose as a power source, such as your power banks, things you use to charge up your mobile phone if you don't have access to a power point, they're actually considered spare batteries as well. So with your spare batteries, is the approval of the operator required? Do you need to tell Virgin or Qantas? No. However, is it permitted as checked baggage? No. Is it permitted as carry-on baggage? Yes. You've actually got to bring it on board the aircraft with you for the overhead locker or underneath the seat in front. The next thing I want to talk about is lithium batteries within portable electronic devices. They actually can be contained within your checked baggage, as long as the watt-hour rating doesn't exceed 100 watt-hours. So what they mean by that is any sort of lithium batteries that are inside laptops or other electronic devices, yeah, you can actually include them as part of your checked baggage because they're no longer a spare. I guess the theory behind that too is any contact points or anything like that, because it's actually inside an electronic device, they're no longer going to be exposed and potentially rub up against another battery or a zipper or something like that. You may want to consider whether you determine your drone to be a portable electronic device or not. If you determine that it is, and the regulations are unclear, so I'm going to let you decide about this, but it may be possible for you to put one of your batteries inside the drone and then put the drone and that battery as part of your checked baggage. Now, lithium batteries that are spare or loose with a watt-hour rating exceeding 100 watt-hours, but not exceeding 160 watt-hours, they can be brought on board, but there's a maximum of 2 spare batteries that are permitted. Now, in this case, yes, you actually do need approval of the operator, so you need to get in touch with the airline first. Still not permitted as checked baggage because it's a spare battery, but it is permitted as a carry-on baggage, as long as you've got no more than 2. Now, Qantas and Aviation Australia, they've also developed their own additional requirements. What they say is that the device, your electronic device, must be protected against inadvertent action. So if there's an on-off switch, or even you've got your on-off buttons on many lithium batteries like the DGUS batteries, you need to make sure that it's protected so you can't actually turn it on during flight. The other thing too is they say if your battery is greater than 160 watt hours, they're not permitted. You cannot carry these sort of lithium batteries on board passenger aircraft. As a result, they'll have to be sent as freight and declared as a dangerous good. They may be able to be transported aboard a toll or a TNT plane or something like that, but they'll never be able to be transported with passengers. For Qantas, they require airline approval for batteries from 101 to 160 watt hours, and the way you do it is you just email dg@qantas.com.au, just explain them your flight number and the type of batteries you want to take on board, and it's usually never a problem. Virgin don't have a direct email address, so you've got to get in contact with them through their hotline. So I've been talking to you about these watt hour limits. So we had a 100 hour watt hour limit, we had a 160 watt hour limit. How do you actually determine what the watt hour rating is for the battery you want to transport? Now the good thing is most batteries for products such as DJI equipment, it's actually displayed on the casing, and that makes it really easy for you as a traveller, and it also makes it really easy for you to show the check-in staff or the security screen guys. However, some of the older batteries, they don't actually display the watt hour rating, but what they will display is the voltage and an amp hour, which makes calculating the watt hour rating quite simple. The way you do this is you just get the voltage, you multiply it by the amp hour, and that'll give you the watt hour. So in this case here, if you were to have a 12 volt battery that was 5 and it had a 5 amp hour rating, it's going to be 12 times 5, which is 60 watt hours. Now that's well below the 100 watt hour limit, so you could take multiple spare batteries on board as carry-on only. If the battery is rated milliamp hours, mAh, then all you do is divide your final answer by 1000. So the example here, we've got 6 times 2500 divided by 1000 gives you 15 watt hours. This picture here is a photo of a Phantom 3 battery, and the really good thing is it displays here the watt hour rating for the battery, which is 68 watt hours. So I've got a little bit of a scenario for you now. So you wish to travel with your Phantom 3 and you've got 3 of these spare batteries. What sort of checked or carry-on baggage limits would apply to you? So I'll give you a little bit of time to have a think about that. If you need to go back a few minutes, you can have a look at the table. Or the other thing too is the table 2.3. It's in the air law section of our course notes. Now I'm about to reveal the answer. If you still want a little bit of time to go back and think about it, hit the pause button now. Otherwise I'll continue. Okay, so the answer for it is because each battery is rated at 68 watt hours, it's under the 100 watt hour requirement. Therefore, the 3 spare batteries, they must be part of your carry-on baggage. And because it's under the 100 watt hour limit, you can carry a reasonable amount of these batteries for personal use. Again, what does a reasonable amount mean? It's not clearly defined. It's up to your interpretation, I guess, and possibly that of the airline as well. Now another good example is you've got these batteries here. Now these are batteries that come from a DJI Inspire. You've got a TB47, which has a 99.9 watt hour rating, and you've got the TB48, which is a bit more, 129.96 watt hours. So you want to travel with your Inspire, you've got multiple numbers of these TB47s and TB48s that you want to pack. Have a think about what limits would apply to you, whether you can carry them as checked baggage or carry-on baggage. Is there any limits that will apply to you? Now again, go back, have a look at those previous tables, have a look in your course notes. If you need a little bit more time to do it, please hit the pause button now, otherwise I'll continue with the briefing. Now the answer is because the TB47, this battery here on the left, it's rated at 99.9 watt hours, so they've been a little bit clever, DJI. They've made sure it's actually under the 100 watt hour requirement. So as a result, you can carry a reasonable amount of these lithium-ion batteries, these TB47s, as long as for personal use. On the other hand, the TB48, it has 129.96 watt hour rating. So this is over the 100 watt hour requirement. As a result, you are limited to 2 of these in your carry-on baggage, and you actually require the approval of the airline. Now recently CASA started to alert RPA operators about a number of instances where people were deliberately breaking the laws with respect to batteries and lithium batteries and dangerous goods. A couple of these instances included RPA owners actually relabeling batteries to have a lower watt hour limit so they could actually get it on board an aircraft. Which is scary and just crazy. I don't know why people would do that. Batteries have also been sourced from manufacturers with the full knowledge that they've been deliberately mislabeled with the lower watt hour rating, and people have been deliberately circumventing the security screening process. Other things too is there's been instances where consignments of lithium batteries have been incorrectly mislabeled or misdeclared, and people have actually been packing their lithium batteries in checked baggage, like that example that I gave you earlier with the flight to Fiji. As a result, CASA recommends that RPA operators should include information in their operations manual detailing your procedures for safe battery management, and in particular how you're going to transport lithium batteries by air. The following is a video that's been released by CASA, and it gives you a good summary of all the information we just discussed then about lithium batteries.
Batteries are everywhere. They're a part of everyday life. However, the energy stored inside batteries can make them dangerous. Don't endanger yourself and fellow passengers by packing batteries incorrectly.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. Where are you off to today?
Heading to Melbourne today.
Do you have anything dangerous or flammable in your bag?
No.
There's no spare batteries, matches or lighters?
None of that.
I've got you going to gate number 11. Boarding will be at 11:40, and that's your receipt for your bag.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All spare batteries, regardless of size, must be in your carry-on luggage. You also need to take precautions in protecting the battery against short-circuiting and overheating. The only time batteries may be packed in your checked luggage is when they're installed in the device. Always ensure devices cannot be accidentally activated once they are packed. If you want to take more powerful batteries above 100 watt-hours, like the ones found in wheelchairs, electric bicycles and industrial equipment, check with your airline before you fly. If you have any doubts about the batteries you are carrying, always check with your airline or airport staff.
Hi Sir, how are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now can I ask you if anything dangerous or flammable? No spare batteries, matches or lighters?
Not in my bag, but I do have it in my carry-on.
Carry on, may I just have a look, please? Thank you.
And I've got these two as well.
Okay, no, they're fine in your carry-on luggage.
you very
That's
much.
fine, thank you.
You can also download the Can I Pack That Dangerous Goods app and find more information on our website at casa.gov.au/DG.
And always remember, if in doubt, ask.
So in conclusion, undeclared dangerous goods, as we've seen, are a very significant risk to aviation safety, and lithium batteries in particular, they've caused a number of fires across the world, which have resulted in very, very serious incidents. If you've got large quantities of lithium batteries or batteries greater than 160 watt hours, they may actually have to travel as cargo, and they can't go on board a passenger aircraft. As we saw, batteries up to 160 watt hours, yeah, they are permitted as carry-on baggage, but there are additional precautions that airlines may require you use, such as isolating terminals. And the big thing too is check with your airline's website before you travel and learn a bit more about what their requirements are to do with lithium batteries. If you're unsure about anything to do with dangerous goods or the lithium batteries, feel free to get in contact with the airline.